So let me move on then to Louis Gritzo, and I didn't realize you were Dr. Louis Gritzo, excuse me, from FM Global, a great Rhode Island company, that also a great international company, and really excited to have him come today because I think he can really help to show. One thing is, obviously, insurance expenses are a very important part of a business's bottom line. But FM Global takes it a step further, and I think also is really helping businesses do planning, both to think about their insurance liabilities, if you will, but also to think about the ways that they can invest to be able to be a more successful business by being more resilient. So thank you. Let me hand it off to Louis there.
Thank you very much. In a world of changing climate and increased vulnerability to both social and natural disasters, I'm here to tell you that the majority of the consequences of the storms we face can be prevented. And the economic consequences to Rhode Island can be protected. I'm here on behalf of FM Global, a Rhode Island headquartered company for 179 years. We now do business around the world. We're a specialty company. We only insure commercial and industrial properties, and our clients now include 1 of 3 of the Fortune 1000. We believe that the majority of loss is preventable through research-based engineering. Our engineers are going to work with our clients to assess and reduce their risk, and then we will insure the risk that we cannot reduce or eliminate. Finally, we're mutually owned, so everything we do is focused on our clients' needs, protecting their risk through risk reduction, through engineering, and risk transfer through an insurance policy. Our research is based in 2 facilities. One is a 1,600-acre campus in western Rhode Island, the research campus in West Gloucester. Here's where we do the physical development of the solutions that we offer to our clients around the world. Our scientific analysis is primarily done at the Center for Property Risk Solutions in Norwood, Massachusetts. This is where our large-scale computing and our climate scientists are located. Both of these organizations or locations together function research, product certification, so we test and certify products for property loss prevention. We don't test and certify consumer products like Underwriters Laboratory. And finally, education. We found that education is a vital part of reducing risk for clients around the world. Let's start with a global picture. Next. 96% of companies around the world have operations exposed to natural disasters. Only 20% are very concerned about their impact to the bottom line. Are these companies flirting with disaster? So what is the mindset? If we look closer to home, 75% of U.S.-based workers feel their employer is not adequately prepared for a natural disaster. And only 29% are confident that their employer will be back in business quickly for them and their jobs will be in place after a hazard occurs. What are the solutions? We assess risk around the world. When we take our best risks and compare them to our worst risks, even broad slices like the top quartile compared to our bottom quartile, we find that the top quartile has risks that are 28 times lower in terms of average property value loss than the bottom. And average losses from natural hazards are $3.4 million less when strong risk management or good risk practices are put in place. Next slide, please. There's no better example than Hurricane Katrina. We had 476 locations exposed to Hurricane Katrina, $42 billion of property value. About half of those locations did not have all of our risk improvement recommendations in place. They suffered $2.3 or $2.30 per $100 of property value in losses from wind. If we compare those to the other half, who had implemented all of our risk reduction recommendations, that improved population experienced 37 cents, over 6 times less property value for making those improvements. So how much did they cost? Less than $10,000 on average. These are simple, cost-effective solutions, primarily involving fasteners on the corners of roofs, better roof decks, better attachment of flashing to protect the roof, which is your primary line of defense from the wind and the storm. We've heard about the tragedy of flood, a very personal experience from Tricia. Let's take a deeper look at coastal flood. Rhode Island has some of the highest coastal storm surge hazards in the Northeast. If we look at the coastal storm surge stations around the bottom of Rhode Island, you see 100-year values at 10 to 13 feet, 500-year values that are over 17 feet in terms of coastal storm surge heights that could affect properties and value along the state's coastline. This is exacerbated by the slow rate of sea level rise. We're fortunate in Rhode Island that sea level rise here is fairly modest compared to other places in the world, like Louisiana. Our sea level rise here is a couple millimeters a year, about 1 inch every 10 years. Louisiana is 5 times higher. However, it adds up. Over time, that is going to add to more coastal storm surge on top of the impressive exposure that we already have. So how do we address this situation? The first thing is taking a much longer term perspective. Here's a chart, if you could back up just a second, please, Representative Handy. Of the 100-year or 500-year probability of a major hazard hitting in terms of the lifetime of a facility. So capital investments are typically made over a 30 to 40-year lifetime. The probability of, if you look at your home with a 30-year mortgage, of you experiencing a flood, if you're in a 100-year flood zone, is 1 in 4. Over a commercial property that's designed for a lifetime of 40 years in a 100-year flood zone, the probability of experiencing a flood is 1 in 3. So capital investments viewed over this lifetime in the context of these 100 and 500-year floods, which are truly a misnomer, really need to be protected to a higher level. We work with our clients to protect their facilities to the 500-year or 0.2% probability. When you look over the lifetime of a capital investment, that drops those probabilities down to less than 10% over that entire lifetime. Quite manageable for business. So one of the complex situations that we face is how do we discuss 100 and 500-year floods in more meaningful terms. Think about it in terms of your mortgage, the time you're going to spend in your facility, the time you're going to spend in your job, and think about it in those terms. 1, 3, and 40 years. Next slide, please. So what do we do about protecting from flood? We saw how much momentum, energy, water carries. Well, there are 3 simple solutions. The first is block the water out. The second is raise your assets above the water line. And the third is seal whatever your assets are that are exposed to the water. First is blocking. This is by far the most effective if it's possible. If you can't build your facility high enough, block the water around. We now have tested and certified in the past year 24 FM-approved flood barriers that can be quickly and easily implemented to keep water out of a facility. They're tested and certified to work as specified in our engineering standards. The next is to raise the facility. The one home that comes with free RV parking underneath is not necessarily the best solution. But the commercial property you see on the right was designed to be able to be flooded up to a certain level. The only operational complication is that the elevators need to be moved off the ground floor to protect the elevator hardware from damage. The third is less popular and less common, more difficult to implement, which is sealing equipment. Equipment is very difficult to seal. Some simple equipment can be sealed. Far better solution is to raise that equipment above the hazard level. Finally is the mindset. None of this will happen without the correct mindset of the people that make the decisions and the people that go to work each day. There's 2 simple solutions that we've experienced with our clients that help change the mindset. First is to describe the risk in real terms, not math. The 100-year event is very easy for somebody to dismiss because we're not thinking in 100-year timeframes. 1 in 3 in 100 over the period of your mortgage. 1 in 4 in 100 over the period of your capital investment. Finally, bring disasters to life. We heard a great example of this morning by Tricia going to get her child from school with flooded streets. Those are the things that will have impact. Examples, experiences that people can relate to really motivate action and cause risk reduction to occur. At our research campus, we have 2,500 visitors come through every year. Nothing changes their mind like seeing the way the earth moves in an earthquake, seeing what can be done to protect a facility from flood, or seeing what a large-scale industrial fire looks like up close and in person. So in closing, a resilient Rhode Island, 3 keys. First of all, we have to change the mindset. We have to get people thinking about these issues in longer terms. Second, we have to avoid the uncertainty trap of not knowing everything there is to know about climate change. We know storms are increasing, thunderstorms are increasing, we know sea levels are rising. The hazards that we face right now, the hazards that we know at that 500-year level, need to be protected against. And finally, we need to implement cost-effective solutions. They're out there, we just need to implement them. The benefit: public well-being, protecting the environment, protecting the infrastructure, and protecting economic growth and jobs. Thank you very much, and I'll be glad to answer questions during the day.
Thank you again, Mr. Gritzo. I appreciate that, and I think, again, he really emphasized some really key aspects of what we've been talking about over and over again today. And let me just get this thing open here again. Oh, well, you don't have one. See, problem solved, so I don't have to worry about that one. I'll just close this thing. Next, I want to introduce Peter Carroll, who I'm sorry, Paul Carroll, not the coach of the Seattle football team. I went to University of Miami, where he actually coached before going on to other coaching things. So I have his name stuck in my head sometimes. Paul Carroll from Newport. Some might describe him as their economic development director, but I like his title a lot better, the civic investment director. I think he's somebody with the vision for what he thinks Newport can really achieve under a climate change reality that we know we're all facing, in terms of economic development, in terms of making the quality of life of Newport residents better. And I'm hoping some of that also we can translate, obviously, into success for the state in those same kinds of categories. And so